So, just to give you a little background on what I do at Rotary International headquarters, I'm the social media community management specialist, which is a mouthful, but I've been with Rotary for about a year and a half, and my job is to manage our online community. So I meet with a lot of members around the world and help tell their stories. I work a lot with social media user generated content, which we will talk a little bit about today. Um, but something else that I do at Rotary is I work across different communication departments. I do some disaster monitoring. So when there's a natural disaster, I'm monitoring for any news updates or Rotary events that help support these disasters. And I do that by looking at Facebook groups, which we'll also talk about today. But just an overview of the things that I'm going to go over. It's kind of just some social media tips and tricks across Facebook and Instagram. Okay, so I have two PowerPoints today. The first one is basically just an overview of some social media tips and tricks and how to tell your story. Let me get rid of my face on here. Okay, so, right, let's see. Okay, so something to keep in mind when you're creating Facebook pages for it could be your club or your district, your zone, whatever it may be, a really important question to start is who are you trying to reach? So understanding that target audience is key to be able to tailor your content effectively. And I always like to remind you that there are potential new members everywhere that might be coming across your Facebook pages or any of your social media accounts. But of course, your internal members who are looking for updates, and then there's other nonprofits and local businesses who might want to collaborate with you in the future. And so it's important to think about your entire audience and not just one of those categories. And it's also important to respond to comments, messages, mentions. That is a big part of my job as the community management specialist, is going through every single comment, message, and mention that Rotary International gets across all of our platforms. But this fosters a sense of community and helps you build relationships with your social media audience. Let's see. Sorry, I have notes on one computer and then PowerPoint on this one. So I mentioned different clubs and organizations, local businesses, because there are opportunities for collaboration, even with Rotary International as well. I'm always looking at different social media pages and figuring out, oh, what is this club doing? How can we collaborate with them on the Rotary International pages? So it's important to keep things like that in mind to expand your reach and connect with new audiences authentically. An example would be if you post something on your Rotary Club social media page and it's reshared by a member, now that content is on that member's audience on social media. So those are just things to keep in mind. Let's go to the next slide. So I will be mentioning the pesky algorithm quite a few times today. A big thing that we just hound into anyone who will listen is be consistent. People and algorithms love consistency. And so maintaining a consistent posting schedule will keep your audience engaged and interested in your content. This doesn't have to be every day. It could be once a week or twice a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but just maintaining that consistency is key on getting your content reaching different audiences. So an up-to-date online presence is crucial because it enables potential members and partners to discover your club's activities, accomplishments, opportunities, and of course, the interest and trust in the club's commitment to impact and being people of action. That it just shows that to people when they're looking at your pages. And it offers a reliable resource for members and potential members. Regularly tracking and analyzing metrics is a helpful tool in understanding what content is resonating with your audience, and of course, being ready to adjust your strategy accordingly. So that sounds like a lot of words, but I promise I'll touch on everything one at a time. So this is probably the, I'm sorry, was somebody about to say something? No? Okay. This is probably the most important slide that I have today. Using photos that tell a story. So oftentimes when I go to a club or a district social media page, I see a lot of just informational graphics. And every now and then that's great, but it seems very tailored towards current members and being informational, and it's not as appealing to potential new members or even me as I'm looking to maybe collaborate with the club or district on an event or activity. So taking photos of people that show action, maybe they're getting their hands dirty, like in this photo, or handing out supplies, even sharing a moment of laughter. Those are all really good key points to remember when you're capturing social media content, is you want it to be an action photo. Using high quality images, videos, and graphics capture attention and make your post stand out. And a lot of these, like this can be achieved with just a simple iPhone, you know, or any smartphone that takes photos. It does not have to be a professional photographer, videographer gathering this content. We take a lot of our content with our cell phones. But also on your social media pages, sharing valuable and informative content that's educating and entertaining and inspiring is, I would value over solely promotion. So an example is if you do want to post a graphic with an event and all of the details, maybe post again after the event and showing photos of the action photos from the event with a follow-up on what was the impact and what did you achieve. And instead of just, you know, a group of people smiling, it could be a small group of people laughing. So yeah, just photos that tell a story. We have, what point am I at? How else can I share this story? So we have a team dedicated, it's called Content Crew, and there's representatives from all of the communications departments. And what we do is we get a lot of magazine features that we have to post on social media. And so we'll more than likely the first time take the photos from the magazine, post it with like a caption and then a link to the article. But then Content Crew goes back and says, how else can we tell this story? How can we do it creatively? I'm sure you're all familiar with the iron lung and polio, and there was an article about the iron lung. And we realized that there's actually a museum in Chicago that has an iron lung. And so we went as a team and captured content to share that article for a second time in a different way, if that makes sense. So always ask yourself, how else can we share this story creatively? Don't be afraid to try new formats and strategies, different types of content to see what is working best for your audiences, and be willing to adapt based on feedback and results. And then lastly, keeping up with the latest trends. So a fun part of my job is I get to scroll through Instagram Reels and TikToks and see what's trending right now. And if I come across a sound, I'm thinking, how can Rotary use this sound to be relevant on social media? Or maybe it's a transition. So that's always something fun that you can do, is just see what's trending right now and how you can be relevant and maximize your reach on social media. Okay. So this slide is just finding inspiration in other social media pages. Of course, I have to say, if you're not already, follow Rotary International for some inspiration and content. I also tell people, if they find a gap in their content calendar, a really good fill-in is to just reshare something that we have posted, because that's relevant to your club and your audience. That's a good filler, but there's also other accounts. It could be our partner organizations or some local nonprofits in your community that you can follow on these different social media platforms to find inspiration. Sometimes I'll look at our partner organization Instagram feeds and I'm like, that was a really good idea. I wonder how we can implement that. So just something to keep in mind. Assign roles. Um, Obviously, social media is a full-time job. That's what I do as a full-time job. So I'm not saying that you need a full-time social media manager, but if you are having an activity or an event as a club, you might consider saying you will be in charge of taking photos and videos and posting them on social media. And of course, it's always a great resume builder if you have someone who's a little younger in your club and just wants some experience. Fun fact, I actually got my very first social media job because I volunteered as a social media manager for a place that I volunteered at in college. And so that is how I am where I am today. And so yeah, just assigning those roles. And maybe there's someone in your club who's really interested in statistics and data. And so they could go through and do kind of some of that analyzing that we talked about earlier to see, oh, this content did great, or this one didn't do so great. We could try something different. But yeah, just kind of having that organization of somebody is doing something and in charge of it as far as social media. Okay, where am I? Let me see. Okay, there we go. They're all going to come up one at a time. Okay, so use your tools and resources. I'm actually going to go from the bottom to the top. So the brand center is probably the most resourceful tool that you have at hand. And I can, of course, drop the link to the brand center, but that has so much content, whether it's graphics, videos, photos, and they're completely, you can use them at any point in time. So again, if you have a gap in your calendar and you need to post something or want to post something, check out the brand center and see what's going. We're always updating it. And it's a really good resource. Platform-specific tools. This is things like Instagram and Facebook stories and reels and the story highlights, which is up at the Instagram page, like your profile. At the top, there's little circles and you can create story highlights. So most stories go away after 24 hours. The story highlight, you can add those stories and people can go back and watch them way later. That's important to have, especially if you have really important information that you're putting on your stories. So something I've noticed recently is that Instagram is if you start scrolling through Instagram, you're probably going to come across a lot of promotional ads or suggested content, things that aren't really relevant. That's something I've been running into lately. And unfortunately, this also means if you're posting on your grid, so just a normal photo post, it's not getting as much. Sorry if you hear the sirens, Chicago, but your pictures aren't getting as much visibility anymore. And it's because what people do is they open the Instagram app, they click through some stories up at the top, and then they close it. So the Instagram algorithm has been changing, and what I would suggest is still posting your content on your grid so that when people visit your profile, it's there. But if you notice that it didn't get very many likes, take that content and post it in your story, and it's bound to get way more visibility. So that's just kind of an Instagram thing that's been going on. But also, that algorithm is currently favoring Reels over posts. It's because it's a little bit of a newer feature. And so the point of this is that the platform-specific features, the newer they are, the more they want you to use them. And it's important that you do use them. You might notice on the Rotary International stories, there will be engagement opportunities. That's usually me. For instance, if there's an international observance, such as International Women's Day, which is coming up very soon, I will post a picture on our story with a sticker that might say something like, how is your club celebrating International Women's Day? And that's just a good way to get your audience engaged, and seeing what they have to say. But of course, there's different stickers and hashtags you can create, polls, and always mark a location and mention anyone that you're talking about in your post. Lot of talking. Okay, and then up at the top, of course, hashtags. Hashtag People of Action is a Rotary International hashtag. Same with hashtag Rotary Clubs, hashtag Rotary International. It's also important if you're posting about a specific area of focus, hashtag environment or hashtag end polio. These are really good things that you can do as well to get more visibility on your post. Social media is your online billboard. So an online presence does function like a billboard. It captures attention and it shows what your club is about and is trying to attract and engage potential members, partners within the digital world, while also building this brand awareness and communicating your story. So that's just some way to think about it. Is it really is an online billboard, and you want it to look good and presentable and to be informative and also entertaining, for potential members or even your club members. Okay, so the last slide of this PowerPoint, lead with impact and encourage engagement. I think engaging on social media with your audience is a really big part of having a social media presence, and just making sure you're commenting back to those people that are commenting on your post or messaging you with questions. So yes. I did receive a few questions about Facebook groups, so I am going to pull up a second PowerPoint that's just going over some good information about Facebook groups. So Facebook groups, we get a lot of questions about Facebook groups and our recommendations. So this is kind of a best practices, some information that could be helpful when creating a new Facebook group or managing your current one. So getting started, there's two privacy options, public and private. So It kind of depends what the point of the Facebook page is going to be. So, of course, almost every club has a Facebook page, and that's their Facebook presence. And so those are usually private. Or no, I'm sorry, those are public. They can be found by anyone. But then we come across a lot of private groups, and this could be district governors, and I'm trying to think of some other ones. There's a lot of different fellowship groups that have private Facebook groups that I've come across. I mean, it could be as niche or as broad as we could talk about, but private groups can only be seen by the members of that group, and we recommend using the settings private but visible. And there will be an admin who is in charge of allowing people to join or declining, and of course, moderating the Facebook page. So to invite people to your private group, you can do it by inbox in Facebook group. You could send a text or an email with a link. And again, that admin has to approve people that request to join via link. Sometimes if you are creating a private Facebook group, we do recommend that you maybe add some questions that are identifying so that not just anyone is joining. The last thing you need is someone spamming the Facebook group. So that's just a few examples over to the right. Tips and guidance. So Facebook groups, especially when it's the Rotary Club of XYZ, like I said, that is their Facebook presence. And so you treat it like any other social media platform. You want to post different formats and different types of content, whether it's videos, reels, photos, graphics, whatever it may be, but always try to kind of be engaging with your captions. Something you could do is pose a poll and have the members like submit an answer and comment, and just that engagement key. So let's see, what have I not covered? Yeah, if you want to really engage your audience by asking a question and a caption, make sure it's one that's going to promote discussion, not just a yes or no answer. And of course, respond to those comments, like them, react to them. And kind of what we were talking about earlier, this goes the same for Facebook pages. Vary the length and style of your post. Try new things that might work. And of course, across every platform, keep our Rotary global audience in mind. You never know who's going to be looking, so make sure you're using inclusive verbiage. And yeah, I think that's it for this slide. Links, resources, those can all be shared within Facebook groups. Back to consistency. A good starting point is once per week. I feel like that's doable. Whoever is in charge of running this page, aim to post once per week. Create posts that prompt engagement. So images, polls, events, general questions. Make sure you're tagging people in different posts if it's relevant. And then we've talked about engaging, liking, commenting, and be enthusiastic and transparent so that you're building this relationship with your audience. So Facebook has changed just a little bit. You used to be able to pin a post, which would be the first post that people see when they are viewing your Facebook group. But now it's an announcement. So when you post, there's going to be 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. If you click on that, you'll find this series of options over to the right, and you will do mark as announcement, and that is the same as pinning a post. So a good tip on the PowerPoint is consider using a rules of conduct post that may be the admin post. and it's just a list of rules. It helps with moderation. And what I wanted to show you was a way that you could put that in the description, which you can do. But we have a LinkedIn, some of you may be members of the Rotary International LinkedIn page. And we have like a list of rules that I was going to show, but unfortunately I'm not logged into LinkedIn and I don't know my password on this computer, unfortunately. So that would have been the other computer. So yeah, so maybe there's a few admins of a group and you collaborate and come up with some rules. So be respectful, post Rotary related content if that's relevant to the group purpose. But then after that announcement post, you can have several. It will be post in order of the most recent or most engaged with. Topics. Another thing you can do is when you post, click that same 3-dot button and add post topic. This is really helpful if you want to reference an older post for whatever reason, and you can create these topics based on whatever your needs are. There's a few listed if that's relevant for you, but if not, you can choose your own, and it just keeps everything really organized, especially from an admin perspective. Group moderation. So I'm in charge of moderating a few Facebook groups and of course the LinkedIn group as well. So as a moderator, you sometimes have to remove posts or comments that are inappropriate, or if they don't follow the rules that you come up with. Sometimes it might be necessary to follow up with an individual privately to explain why the content was removed. Especially if it's a small group, it's like just your club, then yeah, you might want to follow up with them and say, look, you can't post that. It's a lot easier when it's a very small knit group. And so, yeah, that does conclude my presentation.